Hello, and welcome to the New Mexico Bureau of Geology and Mineral Resources Geographic Information Systems informal lecture series. I am your co-host today, Phil Miller. With me, I have my co-host, Amy Dunn. Today, we are going to be finishing up on discussing the mapping kit topic. Today, we're focusing on the photogrammetry side of the equation for our mapping kits. And then Amy is going to follow up with a couple discussion points on some of the variations that are legacy mappers, our continuing mappers, will see that are different from previous year's mapping kits. So we're going to talk about some of the slight variations that you will begin to see in these mapping kits. Okay, so I want to do a little bit of a recap because fundamentally we need to know what we've done last week to know where we're at this week. So last week we copied from the S drive to our D drive the mapping kit that we are working on. When I did that, I have already done the first step of our photogrammetry kits. So I'm going to go ahead and open up right. One housekeeping thing really quick. If you went and grabbed anaglyph glasses from the table on the common area, make sure the blue eye is your right eye, the red eye is your left eye. Otherwise, everything is going to look inverted to you. And with these ones, you can fold them either way to work. So again, sorry, I have to close my eyes to make sure I'm doing this right. Right eye is blue, left eye is red. Okay, so where we started last week is we copied from the S drive, from the archive, the mapping kit to our local D drive. And what we need with that is to discuss on my D drive, I have the folder structure matching the folder structure that is on the S drive archive. This will allow a continuous set of connectivity when we work in the ArcMap environment that allows us to ignore the drive letter and a lot of the times can help us repair our links that are broken. So I'm discussing this to make sure that everyone sets up their D drive to have this same folder structure so that all of our projects follow and conform to the Bureau standard that we've established. So what we did last time was I copied Bell Mountain from the S drive and copied it to my local D drive. So I'm going to go into 24K, B, Bell Mountain, and we can see in Map Elements Arc, I have a Bell Mountain MXD. Previously, you would have seen Bell Mountain underscore stereo. Because we're splitting the softwares out now, we didn't need to say that this is the stereo MXD because the MXDs are all for our stereo process. So in there, I'm going to go ahead now and open up the Bell Mountain MXD and get that started to open up. And we're going to continue talking about a couple other things. When you copied your data to your D drive, in repository rasters, there's a stereo images folder. Inside the stereo images folder is all of the images that you need for this map's specific project. So these are the stereo pairs specific to Bell Mountain. You will also notice in that rasters folder that we have the LiDAR data, we have some hillshades for you, and we've got some SPATM data for you. So this is the 4.5 meter data in feet, the 4.5 meter data in meters, the LiDAR hillshade, and the LiDAR digital elevation model for you. And then again, inside the stereo images folder are the stereo images. We will talk about this in a little bit more detail once the project opens. But I just wanted you to be aware that you want to be using the images in the stereo model from your local drive. Otherwise, it will be a much slower process to go and retrieve those from the network instead of having them local on your computer. So that's the important designation and understanding that we need to obtain right from the get-go. That's part of the reason why we copied the whole folder of Bell Mountain underscore OFGM XXX to our local D drive is so that we copied everything local. There is a chance if you built this folder structure the same way as it is on the S drive regarding the scale alphabetic designation, and then your folder name for the quad name project. The links for your stereo images will show up without any work and will be referencing the D drive folder already. So you won't have to repair those links. I am going to do a scenario where I show you how to repair those links. I hope this works. I didn't get to practice this, so we'll see if this works or not. But ultimately, when we look at what is in here, like we saw in our Pro project, we have the same problem here in our Stereo MXD. The geodatabase links are broken because we need to connect them back to the mapping workspace. So fundamentally, there is no difference from what we're doing other than we have to wear these goofy glasses in order to see the 3D relief. So I'm going to go through the process just like we did last time. We click on the red exclamation mark. It pulls up the dialog wizard to repair the broken links. I am going to navigate to my mapping workspace to 24K, B, Bell Mountain, Map Elements, Arc. There is my Bell Mountain geodatabase. Inside my Bell Mountain geodatabase is my geologic map feature dataset. Inside my geologic map feature dataset is the topology. And again, the reason why I typically use the red exclamation mark on topology is because now I don't have to make sure I'm selecting the correct feature class to repair to. There's only one topology in each feature dataset. It makes this very easy to say, look at the geologic map topology, repair that link. It then compares all of the feature classes that are already in this layer file and ensures it finds the matching ones. And then with the matching ones, it'll go ahead and repair those broken links. Exactly the same as we had to do last time. Fundamentally, this layer file was connecting to a certain data set. We now need to connect it to the correct data set. In that, our create features templates has the same problem that it has in Arc Pro. We need to set our data sources. We need to set our location sources. Okay, so now that we've repaired the links, ultimately we have the same issue that in our create features data class, create features templates, and we need to start an editing session in ArcMap so we can see those. In our create features data sets, we have the same issue that we have in Pro. If I open up the properties, we can see that the data source is empty, the location source is empty. It would be convenient now for you on your local files to configure everything so that your data source is set to you and that your location source is set to, in this case, this would be a very important thing to denote that these would all be collected in the photogrammetry method. Amy, do you want to interject now with the highlighted fields?
Sure. So we've added highlighted fields. You can see the ones in yellow. I believe the green one just means that's what we're symbolizing off of.
Correct.
Um, these fields are fields we need you to fill out because you have that information. And if you don't fill it out, we're going to have to come ask you for it. Some of the fields that aren't highlighted are fields that are either optional for you, like you can fill out notes, but you don't have to. Um, The is concealed field here is based on the symbol, so that shouldn't change if you're using that symbol. Um, I think that's it for highlighted fields.
I think so as well. Thank you very much. I appreciate that interjection. Much like we did in the Arc Pro projects, if we look right here, we have the organized templates. This is extremely similar to the, I think it's called manage templates in Arc Pro. When we click on it, it pulls up a dialog box, and much like we had in the Arc Pro environment, we have the ability to multi-select features, right-click, come to the properties, and bulk designate our data sources example. So in this case, on these projects, I set me as the data source, and my location source is the location source stereo. So this is the photogrammetry location source. That's where I'm getting my information from. So I could go ahead and click OK. And again, the same is true like we talked about last week's video. You can bulk set the default values for your create features templates so they're pre-configured for you. So I'm going to demonstrate that again. I selected all of the contacts and false features that we want to create, right click, properties, and now I can bulk designate my data source ID and my location source ID. Once we go through the process of, again, configuring all of these, you can ignore the contour lines. Oops. You can ignore the contour lines and tick points and map extent poly. Right. You don't need to set the location source or data source for those. That is already defined for us in our projects when we are creating the mapping kits for you all. So same process as we did last time. Go through, set all the data sources, set all the location sources for this information. That would be a good time now to save your layer file, the LYR, not the LYRX of Pro, the LYR that has all of those configuration settings set up in your Create Features template. So I'm going to demonstrate that again. You would right click, save as layer file, and then in your local D drive, oh, and I don't have it as a source. Uh-oh. In your local D drive, then in Map Elements Arc, remember Map Elements Arc is our working directory. We can go ahead and designate a Bell Mountain data source ID layer file and also a location source layer file. So I have specified that I have changed all of my create features templates to be for Bell Mountain, DS Darth Miller, and location source stereo. Now I have saved that layer file so that all of the settings that we have configured here are saved in that layer file. From this point now, we can effectively start mapping. And this gets into the discussion point of how the stereo pairs the photogrammetry functions. And we can definitely see that if you're using the anaglyph glasses right now, the colors aren't true. And it's a little bit frustrating, and I understand that. It's a byproduct of the software and the technologies we're using. Hopefully, long term, we'll have better methods of doing this and improved ways of capturing the stereo and presenting the stereo images. But the first part that I want to talk about is one of the things that you may find in your stereo project is you will need to connect your system mouse to the stereo project to know that that function is available. So if you click, you will need to add the stereo analyst extension. So if you right click and come down to stereo analyst, that will open this toolbar. In the stereo analyst, if I come to devices, I will be able to add in my system mouse as a device that I can use in this project. That's a very important step that we need to have set up right from the get-go. We can see that my system mouse is already in here, but if it wasn't and I wanted to add it, we click add. You can find the system mouse in this list. You could find the system mouse. It's warning me that it's already added. And then you can click OK, and it will add the system mouse to the devices that are allowed to use in the stereo project. The other thing that I think would be beneficial to talk about in this is also the display settings of the colors. So right now, if you come to the stereo enhancement toolbar, so right click stereo enhancements, I recommend clicking the DRA, the dynamic range mode. This will help in assist in coloring the images to a little bit more true color. And then I also recommend that we reset contrast and reset your it's contrast and brightness. So we see that these images got actually a little bit more yellow or a little bit more true to color. You can also see in this project that we have relief occurring, and you can see that the contour lines are actually draped along the surface. One of the things that I commented early on in this video is if your blue eye is on the left, this image will be inverted for you. This is a phenomenon, again, of how the glasses work, and if you're using the active shutter, which eye is left eye, which eye is right eye. If you're using the beam splitting technology, it will do a little bit differently because it's polarized, but it switches which pole cross is left eye and right eye. This button will allow you to invert the model. As you're bouncing around looking at different areas of the photogrammetry project, if the image goes inverted, valleys are ridges and ridges are valleys, you'll want to click the invert stereo model to flip those. So I'm going to play with that really quick to show that inversion, but I need to move my image just a slight bit. So to do that, with our system mouse enabled, we click on the stereo window. You click inside the stereo window, press the F3 key. This then allows the system mouse to be in the stereo mode, and I can start moving around the image. If I hit the C key, it allows the cursor to move inside my window. If I press the C key, the cursor follows, the window follows the cursor. So I moved slightly off so that we can see we have the plateau here and we have our valley here. I hit the F3 key to release the mouse back to my software. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to click the invert stereo model so everyone can see the image flip on you because this is a function that happens pretty regularly in our projects. So I'm going to go ahead and flip it in 3, 2, 1. Now we can see that it looks very bizarre in that the ridge is actually the valley and the plateau looks down. So this is that functionality weirdness that I was talking about. It looks bizarre. If it ever looks bizarre to you, go ahead and flip the image so that the relief is in the correct direction paired to the correct left eye and right eye image. So we have gone over how to get into the stereo window and how to flip images, and you can pan around, you can zoom, you can do all of those functions. I also want to demonstrate how to draw a line really quickly. So I'm going to select my contact. I'm going to click on my stereo window. I am going to press the F3 key to enter into the stereo mode, and I'm going to hit the C key so that I can move my cursor around. You can see that there is snapping occurring. Okay, there we go. Now the snapping is not occurring. And the reason why that's a problem is if snapping is turned on, it's going to create problems for you while you're trying to create features. And it'll also depend on what your snapping tolerance is, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I would like to work with all of you separately on that discussion point when we're in the tutorial to talk about, because the tolerances will be specific to what scale of map you're working on, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I now have active my create features, contacts and faults, F3 to enter into the stereo window. I can go ahead and click to start drawing my vertice. And we can now see that contact is showing up right at the surface of that unit. When you see yellow, that is poor correlation. When you see green, that is good correlation. And everybody's comment should be, Phil, I can't tell the difference because you have anaglyph glasses on. So what you'll want to do with the anaglyph glasses is we'll want to set that to a different color instead of yellow and green so that you can physically see the difference of it change color as you go. This is again going to be specific for the type of photogrammetry software that you're using. I don't want to get into it with too much detail because I want to configure for what you're using. But ultimately, everyone should see that I have now basically traced the surface of that plateau. I'm going to hit the F2 key to finish my sketch. We can see that the contact I drew picked up the elevation from the location of my cursor when I clicked, and its precision and accuracy is based off of whether or not that cursor was yellow or green. Green means good correlation between the two images. Yellow means poor correlation between the two images, and the elevation of that will be off based off of how well we did that pick when we had to place our point. So that is the fundamental difference. That is the fundamental thing that the green and yellow cursor is showing us. Okay, that was what I needed to cover generically about photogrammetry and to also demonstrate the photogrammetry. So I think that's all I need to cover. Amy, I am going to turn it over to you now to go ahead and cover these changes that have occurred in our mapping kit projects.
Okay, yeah, I already talked about highlighted fields. Some more differences in the fields you're going to see is in previous map kits, you always had a data source ID for every feature, but only some features had a location source ID. For this year, we have added location source ID to every feature class. This is going to let you break out your data sources so that the data source will be you and the location source will be the method that you use to locate yourself. Um, it's already been brought up that I forgot to add LS LiDAR in here. So if you want that one, let us know. We can come add it for you. Um, it just gives you a little bit more of a breakdown with your data sources, and you don't have to have 5 data sources that all say slightly different things. You can capture it in 2 different fields now. Um, orientation points also has an orientation points source and generic samples, and geochron points also have an analysis source. I believe those are the only other 2 that we have. Um, we've also added to all of the point feature classes, they get an observed map unit field. The observed map unit field only used to be in stations, but we've added it to every point feature class. This is for you guys to put in what map unit you observed when you're collecting this point. It's helpful if you're collecting a point on a contact or a fault and you want to identify which unit you're measuring on. It's helpful if you're generalizing map units and one of your points is in a map unit that you're not actually mapping and the polygon it's in is going to be different. The map unit field is something we will fill out. It's automatically calculated based on the map unit polygon that your point is in. Observed map unit is for you. It can be null. If your map unit matches what you've mapped, you don't have to fill it out. This is just for if it's going to differ from what the final polygon is going to be. The other thing we've updated is in orientation points. I've updated all of the symbology so that the symbols rotate off the azimuth field, and the azimuth field can now be strike, trend, or dip direction. Um, there's also a cartographic option because some of our points are just rotated for cartographic purposes and not actually measured. Um, But you can go into the FGDC symbols table, if Phil will open that one. And this is a list of all the symbols we have. We've added two new fields. So the azimuth measurement convention lets you know which convention is used for that particular symbol. I hope I got them all correct. If you notice one that's rotating weirdly, let me know and I can fix it. And then the point of observation was also added, and that lets you know what part of the symbol it's rotating around. So it can be the tail, the center, or the head. And I think those are the major changes we've had for these templates this year. If you notice anything else weird that you're not used to, come talk to us. I think that's it.
Excellent. I want to thank you all for participating in the Geographic Information Systems informal lecture series. I am so excited that we are able to bring this to you. So I would definitely like to thank the GIS Services Program, Amy, Andy, Tyler, Hannah, and now Amanda. I am so grateful for you all. If it wasn't for you all, I would have a hard time making these presentations and get everything configured. I am eternally grateful to Mike Timmons for allowing me to continue doing this informal lecture series. And I also want to highlight that at some point I will actually do a true deep dive into photogrammetry. I knew there was no way I can go into all of the nuance that I need to go into in one video. So I do want to give an overview video of how photogrammetry works and all of that nuance at some point, but we need to get our mappers mapping. So I would like to do the tutoring session with you all individually so that we can get you configured to map your projects. And then in the future, I hope to do another photogrammetry focused informal lecture series presentation. And I also need to make the comment that this video is recorded in July of 2024. Most of you watching this video can't use ArcMap. You can't use the Stereo Analyst extension. There will be a new video that we will have to produce later on for the Arc Pro environment. And there's some cool changes that'll come from that. So be looking out for that video so you can find out the new way we're going to capture our information. I want to thank you all, and we'll see you in the next session.